What up, YouTube? Felipe here, bringing you guys some gameplay, a little bit different style of video, some voiceover. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Been playing some Black Ops, and today I want to talk about how to destroy your life in your 20s. So pretty heavy video, but hopefully you guys can just inverse what I'm talking about. And I'm still 25, so I'm still going through a lot of this. But yeah, I've made some big mistakes when I was younger, and some of those mistakes you look back and you're like, what were you doing? But I've learned a lot, and the gap between those two versions of the old me and who I am today is a handful of mistakes that I see a lot of people make every day. So today I wanted to give you guys the full blueprint of how to completely obliterate your 20s and some big mistakes that people do all the time that I see. So mistake number one, I think, is getting a degree that just doesn't help you. So everybody's heard it. Like you go to college, you get a degree, you get a good job, you be fine. And while a good degree can open a lot of doors, I think the wrong one in the wrong field, I think that will cost you a lot. So the fastest way to start your 20s already behind is to get a degree in a useless field. And I grew up in Brazil, and coming to the US, I saw people getting into tech sales, finance, being doctors, lawyers, getting CS degrees and making pretty good money. And I watched other guys and girls get degrees, for example, in communications, and they're not able to land a good job. And the difference wasn't because they were less intelligent. It was just because the decision they made when they were 18 was wrong. So if you're going to college, do the math. What are these jobs paying? What are some of the jobs that I can get with this degree? And if you're not going to college, that's fine. Just be able to replace that time and learn real skills that you can apply to the workplace, because the worst version of you is skipping school and not doing anything and just choosing it to just be free in your early 20s. And don't confuse skipping college with skipping education. I think different people learn from different ways, but if you're not necessarily going to college, you should 100% learn new skills. So mistake number two I see a lot of people do is ignoring money until you're in your 30s. And this one is probably the one that's going to hurt you the most. And most people don't even realize it, that they're making it. I'm currently 25, and this last 5 years have been pretty good for me because I've lived a pretty regimented life, pretty frugal life. And the money that I've made throughout these last couple of years, and it's not by accident. It happened because I got pretty obsessed with understanding how money works, how the best job that I could get. A lot of people in their first real paycheck, they immediately go and scale their lifestyle. They get a new car, they get a nicer apartment, nicer fits. And the thing that goes through their mind is, I'm young, I'm going to figure out this later. That one sentence is, I think, the most expensive sentence you could talk about in your 20s. So this is like compounding interest, and you guys know the power of it. The best asset you have in your 20s, it's not your salary, it's your time. And every year that goes by and you delay investing, you're giving away one of the most advantageous times that young people have. And I kept my lifestyle pretty cheap, and I still do. And I started investing early, and that built like a great foundation for me to start stacking assets. So don't wait until you're 35. Take money seriously. Start as early as you can. And this is not to discourage you if you're a little older, but start now, even if it's a little small. Mistake number three I see is people buying anything and everything they see and only nothing. This is probably the biggest killer for people. I think falling to consumerism in your 20s, you're kind of in this window of life where it's acceptable to be a little broke, and it's still cool. Nobody will judge you for driving a beater in your 20s, right? But once you're a little bit older, in your 35, you're 36, and you have a wife and a couple of kids, like, you're not going to want to be in that time of your life and look back 10 years ago and look at your last decade and just see a bunch of stuff that is just kind of useless, and a credit card balance. So, I've been in this world where I was reselling sneakers when I was in college and some part of in high school as well. And I was surrounded by a lot of people chasing the hype, chasing that culture, and just trying to spend money as much as they could. And I made a decision pretty early on where I wasn't going to spend money that way. And I was trying to live a pretty regimented life. And that's not just being cheap, it's just the math. if you do any calculations of investing when you're young, you know that you come out ahead. So it's not something that doesn't make you necessarily come out behind. If you play it right, you can still get nice things that you want. But buying everything and owning nothing is probably one of the biggest mistakes people do. Mistake number 4 I see all the time is choosing comfort. This one's pretty relatable because you see a lot of people in their 20s just trying to stay comfortable. And maybe relatable is not the best word because I enjoy working and I learn a lot from just working hard. But you see a lot of people out of college and they just go and they're trying to, live a pretty minimalistic life in terms of responsibility. You've got to be more resilient than that. You got to fail pretty well and fast in your 20s. This is a big window of time where a lot of people either choose to travel or to try to start something for themselves. And I currently work a tech sales job. I used to run a tour fleet with a bunch of cars. I've done shoe reselling, like I mentioned. I started an AI automation business with a friend of mine. I trade stocks like you guys have seen. And some of it worked and some of it really didn't. But all of them taught me something new, something that, traveling wouldn't. So I'm all about traveling and learning new things. But I think in your 20s, you should for sure start doing something that you're pretty passionate about, where you're taking some risk. Because, the risk appetite in your 20s, your risk appetite is massive. So it just shows later, I'm sure, in your 30s, once you have a mortgage and a family, real obligations, you're not going to want to do all of this stuff. And it's not necessarily bad, but you're just not going to be able to take bigger swings. So go out there and try to start something for yourself. Mistake number 5 is stay in your bubble and never networking with new people. Yeah, I think your network is your net worth. Everybody's heard this, and I mean it. It's such a big thing. Some of the best opportunities that I've come across is just knowing the right people at the right time. And not because I was the smartest person in the room or the most intelligent. It's because I showed up, I built a relationship with that person, I stayed in contact to stay relevant. And you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Your circle, if you have people that are comfortable, if they're complacent and not building anything, and it rubs off on you. You either want it or you don't. So your circle of ambitious people is actually what's going to drive you in your energy. It's contagious. You're going to want to be around the right people in your 20s, in my opinion. So go out of your way to meet new people, meet more people than you can, and be generally interested in what they do. Get into rooms that you're the least smart person in, people that do different things than you do. Ask what they do and provide value, anything in any way you can. And that's a real network and not just people following you on Instagram. These are real people that you could call. So mistake number 6, this one's big, partying and making it a personality. And I'm not going to act like I've never partied. Back in college, I used to a lot, and I still do go out pretty often. But the difference between having fun and making partying your whole identity, it's a big difference. So the hidden cost nobody talks about is just the money you spend on drinks and the bad decisions you make. 2 days later, after you're completely hungover and useless, you can't work, you can't think clearly, you can't build anything. And imagine how many weekends that you've gone out where you just useless for a couple of days. That stuff adds up, and it adds up fast. And the people I know that are building real wealth, they aren't hitting the clubs. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they celebrate, they go out, but they're not going out every weekend to escape, the reality. So if you're building a life that you want, you don't really need to escape from it. That's a big difference. So mistake number 7, and this one's big too, chasing easy dopamine. So either that's gambling, smoking, drinking, those all go in the same bucket, and these are quick hits of something that feels good, but it costs you a ton long term. This one's massive. And I'm not trying to be super Debbie Downer here and trying to be a monk, but I have a drink or two and play poker every so often. But the difference is between doing that all the time and stealing your attention. These are things that kill your ambition. They rewire your brain to prefer that dopamine and that reward over a long-term thinking. So this one's massive, guys. Don't be scrolling. Don't be on TikTok. Go on it every weekend or so, or just spend less time on it, because this thing will literally kill you. So mistake number 8, and this one is massive too, neglecting your body And I'll keep this one short because, I think a lot of people that watch my channel and other channels of the like, I don't have to convince you that working out is a good thing for you. I think it helps your mental clarity, it helps with your energy, your confidence, your discipline. And it all starts in your early 20s, in your teens. Your body can absorb a lot and you can train a lot. And even if you're eating bad or not necessarily working out the best, you'll be fine. But these bad habits that you might have, they're going to compound. And if you have good habits, they'll compound in a good way. So build some good habits right now, make a part of who you are, and enjoy the gym. So these are some of the 8 mistakes I see people doing all the time. We're coming to the end of the gameplay here too. But if you're in the 20s, it's not about being perfect, but it's about being intentional, in my opinion. Making some of these moves will pay off a lot more in your life once you're older. And I'm 25 and I made some of these mistakes and I'm trying to have you guys avoid it. So hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay and I'll talk to you guys soon. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a like and let me know what you guys think on the comments. Talk to y'all soon.